Hello, you're back again. I'm excited. So today we are going to build up this look. This is a relatively simple day look. I am using more than 2 colors, but I hope you will stay and watch me play. Thanks for being with me. So let's do it. We're going to start out with our Charlotte Tilbury Love is the Drug Swish and Pop, and I am using E10, the Sigma powder and blush brush. So today I wanted to talk to you guys just a little bit about how I became a tattoo artist. People ask me all the time at my work how that went down, and I gotta tell you, I gotta be fully transparent, totally an accident. I loved being into tattoos. I liked to look at them. I loved the art of it, but it wasn't so much my adult plan to be a tattoo artist. When I was young, I thought about it, and I had gotten a couple apprenticeships, but I was too immature to really, understand how that whole thing worked. So when I was in grad school earning my master's degree in Human Resource Information Management Systems, I worked at Staples part-time. And the local tattoo guy kept coming in, and we were friends on a jokey, you're a customer that I see regularly. We weren't tight or anything. And when he would come in, he was always copying these flyers, and these flyers were terrible. And I had been a commercial artist for many years and decided to get out of it because it was such a random and not very consistent way to make a living. And I didn't dig the starving artist thing. I just did not. So that's why I was in human resources, right? So he comes in with these flyers, and we're just popping on a little Fenty Fairy Bomb 24K. And I'm looking at them, and I was just kind of joking this one day. I was like, this is something that somebody would draw in detention in 8th grade. These are not super artistic, and you are promoting an artistic service. I would never, never, never come to you for it because I don't feel like this shows good artistry. And he kind of laughed, and he was, oh, like you could do better. I was like, oh no, I used to be a commercial artist. I could 100% do better. And I'm buffing to disperse the shimmer on my cheek so that it's a little less harsh and a little less stripy. And he's like, well, if you can do better, you should draw me one, and if I like it, I'll buy it. And I'm like, sold. No problem. When do you want it by? I'll come by. And he's like, oh, come next Saturday at 11 o'clock. I'll be in the shop. And I was like, are you sure that that's the only day that I could come by to do it? Because I normally work on Saturdays. He's like, yep, that's just when I know I'll be in the shop. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. So I'm going into my Violet Voss Ride or Die Pro eye palette, and we're going in with a neutral buff color called Erica. And I was like, all right, well, I asked him how much he would give me for the flyer, and he named a ridiculous number, which I no longer remember, but I remember specifically it being, almost half a month's pay for me at Staples at the time. And I was like, okay, well, this is no problem. I can do this. And I figured I would just take the day off from work. Now, this presented a quandary for me because if I took the day off work, I made such a small amount of money at the time that meant that the week after I took that day off, I could either eat lunch, and girlfriend likes to eat lunch, or I could have gas to get to grad school and to work. Well, the only possible solution to that is grad school and work, because if I didn't go to work, that meant the week after that there was no food, no gas, no nothing. So I'm like, okay, well, that's what it is. So this color, Erica, is very, very light, and I think it's going to be really pretty when it's all done. Next, I'm going in with Leslie on the inner lower corner. So I draw a flyer, and he asked specifically, in kind of that mocking way, like, I'm sure if you've been a commercial artist, you have a portfolio. And I'm like, of course I have a portfolio. And he's like, will you go ahead and bring that? Because I would love to see your work. But his voice was saying, yes, bring it. But his expression, his tone was like, yeah, okay, sure you do. The kind of person who's like, We've all seen American Idol, and there are so many people out there who think they can sing and they totally cannot. So there's so many people who think they can draw and they totally cannot, and that is true. But in my case, no problem. Because like I said, I'd been a commercial artist in the past, so no biggie. Now, when you are a professional artist, you generally have a very large portfolio of diverse things, because one of the things you're trying to demonstrate is your range, meaning, hey, I just don't draw from life, meaning people, but I can draw architecture, I can draw fantasy, I can draw abstract. You're showing the range and the breadth and width of your talent. So I was like, sure, no biggie, I can do this. Okay, we're going in with our blending E25. I'm like, I have no problem showing up with a portfolio. So I get a friend of mine to drop me off at the appointed time, which was 11 a.m. on a Saturday. I've taken off work of Staples. I'm not going to eat lunch to have this meeting. And I go into the shop, and the artists look at me, look at the portfolio, and immediately know what's up. I did not know anything about tattoo studios. I had a few tattoos. I think I had at the time 3. But I got my tattoo and left. I knew nothing about the tattoo industry at all. And we're going to go in with E25, a blender. And we are going to hit up a little bit of holly. So he's not there. And I'm like, well, he told me to meet him at 11. Do you guys know when he's going to be in? And because they knew it was up, they were like, no, he's the owner. He comes and goes as he likes. Well, I just had my friend take off and leave me there. And I didn't want to leave because I had taken the day off, right? And I'm like, okay, he's just running a little late, no biggie. And I am blending that holly up into my crease, just a little bit. But I'm pissed, right? Because I have literally given up lunch for a week to be here. This guy is not here. Irritating, right? But I'm like, well, the decision is already done, and I gotta wait for him. So I'm like, okay, well, that's what's going on today. Cool. Well, he doesn't show up for the first hour. And I'm working myself up into like a righteous rage. I'm like, this is not here. All right, so we're going in with April. And I'm using the same brush purposely to kind of bring some of that holly up into the upper brow bone area. And I wait, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait some more. I've waited hours, and he shows up. I'm on the couch. I'm not saying anything. I'm just kind of watching the day unfold in this tattoo studio. And he shows up roughly around 5, 6 o'clock at night. So I've waited, you know, hours and hours. I'm just pulling a little bit more holly. So one of the things I have to do, because I have hooded eyes, is I have to make sure when I'm looking straight ahead that my color actually shows, because I have such a massive hood that if I didn't do that, chances are I would guess incorrectly and a whole lot less of my eyeshadow would show than I prefer. And I'm taking an e.l.f. brush and doing my lash line with Abigail, which is a nice subtle color. I like Abigail. And then I'm taking a very baby brush and taking a little bit of April in the corner. Well, he breezes in 5, 6 o'clock. He's on the phone. And you can just tell by the way he's looking at me, he recognizes me, but he doesn't know exactly who I am. No big deal. I'm not wearing my Staples uniform, and you know how sometimes if you're used to seeing somebody in a particular outfit, and then you don't see him in that outfit, you've got no clue whatsoever who they are. Well, this is clearly happening. He clearly has no idea who I am. And I'm like, cool. And then he spots the portfolio, and a light bulb goes off, and he's like, oh, I know who that is. And he doesn't get off the phone. He just kind of like motions me, you know, spirit fingers, and calls me over to the counter and, you know, motions for me to put my portfolio down, which I do. And let me tell you about an artist and their portfolio. This was a time, you know, this was many, many, many years ago, where most artists were practical artists, meaning that their work was not digital. It was actual physical pieces of artwork, some of which took literally, you know, 100 or more hours. So these are irreplaceable works of art. These are not, you know, some digital file that you can put your grubby little fingers on. And he starts pawing through my portfolio. Heavy eyeliner today. And he's not being careful, right? So it's irritating me because even though the artwork is protected by a plastic sleeve, he's just being really disrespectful. I mean, he's barely looking at it. He's, you know, it hasn't gotten off the phone the whole time. I'm absolutely positively ready to give him a piece of my mind. Oh, we've gone too far. So you can see that the top part of my lid is actually covering my eyeliner, and that you really don't see anything but my eyeliner when I'm looking straight ahead, except for the innermost corner. And this is what I said about being really careful if you've got hooded eyes with how wide you make the line, because if you make the line too wide, as I have just done, you can't see any of the pretty colors. So don't be like me. So he like kind of puts the phone away from his head. He's like, yeah, you can draw. When do you want to start? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, sir. I'm here to sell you a poster. You want it or you don't. And I pulled out the flyer that I had made. And he kind of laughs, and he tells the guy on the phone, or the girl, whomever he was speaking to, hey, let me call you back. I'm like, okay. So he tells this person he's going to call him back. And he's like, so when can you start? And I genuinely have no idea what he's talking about. I'm naive. I'm young. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm here to sell you a poster. Do you want it? Do you not? And I'm being a bitch at this point. I am super pissed off. I've waited hours and hours and hours, and now you show up and you're talking all kinds of nonsense, and I don't even know what's going on. He's like, well, you can draw. I can teach you how to tattoo. When would you like to start? And I was like, I am in grad school. I am earning a master's degree. I am not going to be a tattoo artist. I'm here to sell you a poster. Do you want it or don't you? And he just kind of laughs, you know, and I am straight up giving him full unfiltered bitch at this point. And we're doing a little bit of my Ride or Die Charlotte Tilbury 5-in-1 full fat lash mascara. Man, I love this mascara. It is amazing. And he's like, okay, I really want the poster. I didn't remember my checkbook. It's at my house. You know, why don't you give me a minute? Go stand by the blue car in the parking lot. It's got a sticker for my studio. We'll ride to my house and I'll get you a check and I'll buy it. And I was like, I don't know you, sir. I am not getting in a car with you. No, sirree. And he laughed. He thought this was, again, super funny. And I'm just getting more and more worked up, more and more pissed as we go. And he's like, look, go next door to the hair salon ask a customer, not somebody who works there, to kind of memorize your face. And if you end up missing, the guy that owns the tattoo studio was the last person you were seen with. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do with my portfolio? He was like, oh, bring it with you. I'm like, okay. So I go next door, do a quick scan of the parking lot, see the blue car, and I check out to make sure it's got a sticker. It's got a sticker. I go into the hair salon. I tell a customer, hey, I'm going with such and such a person to their house. If I disappear, he's the last person you saw me with. Meanwhile, the hair salon, like, worker bees knew this person, so they thought this was hysterical. And of course, you know, I'm just mad. I'm just super mad at this point. And I wait, and I wait, and I wait. And it's like 45 freaking minutes. And I am, at this point, there is no consoling me. There's no dialing it back. I am so angry, I'm practically vibrating. I'm standing by this beat up car, asking myself what I'm doing with my life. Oh, I'm so excited. F20. And we're gonna go in with a little bit of Laura Mercier, loose powder and translucent. Oh my God, this feels so good. This feels like fluffy clouds touching my face. And he doesn't come out. And I'm just about to go in, because I think at this point, this guy is just messing with me, right? So I'm about to go in and give him a piece of my mind when he comes out, comes marching across the parking lot and goes to this BMW, this tricked out BMW in the corner. And I'm standing next to a blue car. It's got the shop sticker on it, kind of an older car. And I'm just watching him, you know, like, he isn't looking at me at all. He's just straight for the car and he's looking around, you know, like, what happened? Where is she? And I'm like, and then he sees me and he's like, he's motioning me towards him. So I go towards him and I'm like, he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what are you doing? It's been like 45 minutes. He's like, oh, sorry, I was on a phone call. He's like, yeah, why are you standing by that car? And I'm like, you told me blue car sticker. I'm next to a blue car sticker. He's like, that's not my car. This is my car. And he points to what at the time was the nicest car I've ever actually been close up to, which was a tricked out BMW. And it was loaded to the gills. It was clearly, you know, even at that time was like 100,000 K. It was a massively expensive car. And I'm just like, what's really going on here? And he is like kind of laughing at me. He's like, this is my car. Come on, put your portfolio in the back, you know, and we're going to go to my house. I'll get you the check and we can be done with this. And I was like, okay. So I get in the car. We drive to the most expensive development in the area, which this was a really rural area. So this development was crazy expensive. It had an armed guard. I had never been in a development that had an armed guard that like really kept track of the comings and goings of the people. And I'm just like, crazy, crazy town to me. So we are gonna go in with Toffee Talk Wet and Wild Liquid Catsuit Matte Lipstick. I really like this color. And I'm going to give away a travel rollerball of my very favorite perfume, Stella. So if you would like that, I want you to, and I will pick somebody who does those things. So like the video, comment how you discovered me, put your Instagram handle on, and make sure you are following me on Instagram at Nicole Beauty Co. And I would be more than happy to send you a lovely rollerball of my favorite perfume, Stella. So we drive up to the gate and there's a guy standing there And the guy's got a gun and he's like glowering at us, and I'm like really intimidated. And I'm like, dude, that guy has a gun. He looks like he's about to snap. He's like, it's Jose. Jose is cool. The gun makes him feel important. It's all good, you know? And he's like, gives the thumbs up to Jose, and Jose like bursts into a smile, gives thumbs up to him. And we drive up to a McMansion. All the mansions are like a million shades of beige. They all look fancy. They've got like stone facades and landscaping. And at that point in my life, it was the fanciest house I've ever seen, let alone been close to. We go into the house and it's like night and day, like outside, all business, inside, all party. And I'm looking into the kitchen across the glass slider, and there is a beautiful black cane Corso stud out in the yard. And even at that time, those dogs were rare and quite expensive. And I'm looking at this dog, and this dog's looking at me. He's like, I don't know right where my checkbook is. It's upstairs somewhere. I got to go find it. Feel free to look around. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, what's going on here? There's like, literally the carpet was like wool, and it was a short Berber fiber with leopard print. There's all these pictures all over the living room of him with a bunch of old tattooed guys. There's literally a stage with a stripper pole in the corner. And I'm like, I'm going to end up dead here. You know, I'm going to be in the backyard with a cane Corso. Something crazy's going down. And I didn't get it. I'm like, the inside's all party. The outside's like a beige on beige McMansion. Like, this is weird. And it was a really nice house. And that was also weird to me. I'm like, really nice car, really nice house. Because it was obvious by this person's diction that they were not very well educated. So I'm like, what's happening here? Is this person a drug dealer? What's going on? I don't get it. He comes down and he's, you know, kind of like sniffling and showing me this check. And I'm like, do you have a cold? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, I found out much later what that was about. But at the time, I'm just like, what? And holds up the check, and it's literally like a month's salary. But it's post-dated like a week. He holds up the check so I can see it, you know, like it's right in my face. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, look, I think you are a fantastic artist. You have a rare talent. Very few people can do what you do. I would love to teach you how to tattoo. I want you to come back in a week, spend the day with me in the shop, and if you don't like it, this check is yours, which is why it's post-dated. And if you do like it, I'm going to teach you to tattoo. We're going to rip up this check, and you're going to apprentice under me. And I'm like, nah, dude, that's not what's happening. You promised me that you were going to buy this flyer. I'm in school, you know, to learn how to be a human resource information management systems individual, not a tattoo artist. I'm like, I've seen tattoo artists. They all look like they've rolled out of a dumpster, you know, blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, so how do you think I got that car outside? And I'm like, I have no idea how you got the car. He's like, how do you think I got this house? And I'm like, I have no idea how you got this house. And he's like, do you know anything about tattoos? Do you have any tattoos? You know, and I was like, yeah, I've got a couple. No, I don't know anything about tattoos. And he's like, well, have you spent any time in tattoo shops? I'm like, no, not at all. He thought this was funny, you know, and he's like, do you do drugs? I'm like, I do not. I am straight edge. I don't drink. I don't do drugs, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was at the time. And he was like, great. You are exactly what I'm looking for. You're well-educated. You're intelligent. You comport yourself with dignity. I've had some problems in my shop. I'm looking for a higher caliber of person. I'd like to teach you to tattoo. And I'm like, you know, I love tattoos. That's cool, but I've got a job. And I'm going to grad school, and it's very difficult to manage those two things. And he's like, well, how much do you make at your job? And I was like, I make minimum wage. And he's like, yeah, but how much is that? And I was like, well, I can't work full-time because of school. I think I was at the time making about $750 to $800 a month. And he was like, what if I could make you $750 to $800 in 2 days? And I just laughed at him. I'm like, you are high. You are so high. That's not even possible. I'm like, if your people were making that kind of money, they wouldn't look homeless. And they did, in fact, rather look homeless. And he's like, that's a completely different issue. Tattooers definitely make some money. It's just that their choices regarding what they do with their resources are different than other people's. And I was just like, nah, I don't believe you. He's like, no, seriously, they make some decent money. He's like, take off next Saturday and come by the shop and hang out. And if you don't like it, I will give you this check. It's worth a month's worth of your salary. And if you do like it, then we both get what we want. You're going to get a better paying job. I am going to get somebody that isn't doing drugs, and it's all going to be good. And I'm like, well, that's tough to turn down. So I go the next week and I'm watching them on a Saturday. It was a very busy day in the shop, and it was August. And the shop is buzzing, and this shop was in a little tiny mall. There was like a beach bar next to it. It's in a resort town. And they are literally bringing drinks, you know, from the bar and giving them to customers. And there's all kinds of crazy activity going on. And I had no idea what this meant. I didn't know that this wasn't normal, or I didn't know that it wasn't professional. I had no idea. But everybody's like listening to some cool music, laughing, having a good time. And one of the things he told me when I showed up was, hey, I want you to keep track of how much each person, like the face value of the tattoos that they're doing. And so at the end of the day, I was blown away. It was a very busy day. And he goes into his safe and he's paying out each of the providers. At that time, it was fairly common to be paid in cash and to be paid at the end of the day. That has since changed, but at the time, that was the way it was generally done. And I'm just looking at these people, you know, and I watched like the top provider roll away with, I think, $500 at the time, which, you know, was an incredibly large amount. That was probably 70 to 80% of what I made in a month. And he made that in, you know, 8 hours. And I was like, my jaw just like hit the floor. I'm like, oh my God. And he laughed and he was like, did you have a good time today? And I was like, I did. He's like, what'd you think? I was like, it seemed pretty chill. Everybody was having a good time. The music was playing. Everybody was doing some cool art. I watched him tattoo. Now, bear in mind, I knew nothing about tattooing. I didn't know anything about the tattoo industry. I had no judgment of quality or professionalism or cleanliness or any of those things. I'm just literally looking at the atmosphere and the positive vibe and the cash that these people were walking away with. And I was like, holy cow. So that's how I ended up being a tattoo artist. I really didn't want to. At the time, I was pretty against it, but he was pretty for it, and here we are. So I'm really grateful, even though my apprenticeship and my experience in that shop was not necessarily the best. It wasn't the worst, and here I am. So there you go. I need you to do me a favor. Come closer. Closer. Super close. I would love it if you commented, like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell for notifications. I can't wait to see you next time. Thank you so much and have a fantastic day.